done because it's time to talk Georgia Tech football 22. That's what we got going on.
There's Andy Demetra, ladies and gentlemen, live from Metro Atlanta. Welcome to the program. Chris Winkie was on this show last Friday. Promptly hammered Packer for things Packer said about him when he quarterbacked the Carolina Panthers, but we were able to move on.
Truth hurts.
Yeah. So that being said, it leads me to this. Winkie is one of several new faces on Jeff Collins' staff. How fast can that coaching chemistry take place with, Andy, what appears to be a personnel chemistry that also will need to be addressed? Because there are a lot of new names and numbers on the roster in Atlanta right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, Wes, because you have 7 new coaches, like you mentioned. Chris Winkie, Chip Long takes over as offensive coordinator, and on top of that, a lot of new faces. Georgia Tech replenishing offensively, certainly through the transfer portal, and it's going to be a matter of how quickly can they get everything integrated. That's why the spring was so important for Georgia Tech, and also why they wanted to get right at it in spring football. I mean, our spring game was on St. Patrick's Day. That's as early a spring game as anybody had in the country, but it underscores just how urgent Georgia Tech wanted to approach this offseason and making sure everybody could get acclimated to the playbook and their style of offense. But I will say this, there seems to be a really good vibe, really good chemistry, camaraderie between the players and the new coaches. I picked up on it just being around Bobby Dodd Stadium and around the football facilities here, and I'm excited to see how it all come together beginning in August.
You know, Andy, the thing that's, I think, hard to gain with Georgia Tech is I don't think there's any doubt the football program is better, and Jeff and the job he's done. But for crying out loud, the schedule has been so hard that fans want to get that initial satisfaction of, hey, we're making progress, we're going to a bowl, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that's a goal, but man alive, the schedule has been relentless during the Jeff Collins era. And I don't mean to use that as an excuse, because the object is, hey, we're here to win games. We have a budget. We have a staff. We do this all, da. But, man, I go down this schedule again, and, hey, right out of the gate, hey, let's go play Clemson to start things off. Yeah. And it doesn't get any easier. So with that said, that's a delicate balance, trying to keep people happy winning games. And you look down the schedule and you see Clemson for an opener, Ole Miss non-conference, nasty. At UCF, nothing fun about that. Georgia, of course, at the end of the year. I mean, it's hard to come up for air when you look at this 22 campaign, but that's been the case since Jeff's been there.
Yeah, I mean, it was the case last year. I mean, you think about Georgia Tech in non-conference last year. They played Georgia. They played Notre Dame back-to-back to end the season, and we know those didn't go so well. But at the same time, those were 2 teams that were in the top 10. It's not like Georgia Tech is plugging in, an FCS school and a low FBS program, and those are 2 automatic wins that you can put on the calendar. So, Georgia Tech is going to have to earn its way through this schedule, but they embrace that challenge. They make no secret about it, that they're going to have to be sharp from the opening kickoff of the opening game of the season, and that's why you get that feeling of urgency permeating the facility here because of what's ahead of them in this first month of the season. They're going to have to be ready. There's no easing into the schedule, but at the same time, that's something that they've embraced. They're not shying away from it. They're, it's like what John Moran said, they're not ducking the smoke, and that's the attitude that you need to have when you take on a schedule like this.
Andy, it's easy to say this, that the quarterback's the most important guy offensively, but it really feels like Jeff Sims' development, his improvement, Chris Winkie's influence, Chip Long's influence. If Jeff Sims has a good year, Georgia Tech's going to have a chance. If Jeff Sims does not have a good year, it's going to be a harder fight. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. And look, a lot of teams would envy having a guy who's entering his 3rd year as a starter at quarterback. So Georgia Tech has that luxury with Sims. And I think Jeff, he battled injuries last season, but in spite of that, he increased his completion percentage. You see on the screen 57% for his career, but he completed 60% of his passes last year. His touchdown to interception ratio got better. And now you pair him with Chip Long and some of the things that he likes to integrate in his offense with perimeter screens, involving the tight ends. Can that translate into better accuracy for Jeff Sims? It also can then translate into better efficiency inside the red zone. I think Georgia Tech was right on the cusp of having a pretty good offense last year, but they left points on the board because they were in the bottom dozen in the nation in their touchdown efficiency inside the red zone. So there are definitely some areas where Jeff Sims will need to take that next step for this Georgia Tech program to take a next step. But it's right there for the taking. And I think in Jeff Sims, you have a really willing audience for Chip Long and Chris Weinke and some of the wisdom and schemes that they're imparting on him to try to give Georgia Tech the best version of Jeff Sims they can have so that they can fulfill the potential that he has and Georgia Tech has in 2022.
Andy, on the defensive side, I mean, the secondary had moments last year. You just shook your head and you say, hey, you got to get off the field. I know the moving the change has been important offensively, but defensively, you got to get off the field. So from that perspective, what do you think the expectations are on the defensive side for Georgia Tech?
Yeah, and that's a big thing, Mark, because it was not only third down offense, but third down defense where Georgia Tech struggled last year. And you struggled to stay on the field. You struggled to get off the field. And that's going to wear on you over the course of the game. I will say this about Georgia Tech. Between Charlie Thomas and A.C. Lee, you have two really good anchors in the middle of your defense. A.C. Lee nearly had triple-digit tackles last year. Charlie Thomas is one of the most lay-down and stay-down hitters that you will find in the ACC. He's been slept on a little bit, I think, around the ACC, but I'm confident that will change this upcoming season. And then it's about, can you develop a consistent pass rush? There's no more Jared Ivey. There's no more Jordan Dominic. But, guys like Keon White will have to step up. Keon White's somebody that, guys, I think can really be a breakout candidate for Georgia Tech. He didn't make his season debut last year until November 6th, but he posted some monster numbers at Old Dominion before transferring to Georgia Tech. And you got a taste of that kind of disruptiveness that Keon White can bring to the edge for the Yellow Jackets. Kevin Harris, the guy that they got last year from Alabama, was a very violent, disruptive player. It didn't quite translate on the field, but I think they still feel very optimistic about what he can bring. So there is depth in that defensive ends room, but you're right, Mark, they need to have that consistent pass rush. I don't think defending on first and second down was as much the issue for Georgia Tech last year. Just getting off the field on third down. And so much of that starts with up front. They've got some talent and maybe not the proven production, but they've got some talent. It's just a matter of whether they can take that next step forward this season.
All right, we've mentioned Jeff Sims here. Feel like we ought to at least talk about Malachi Carter from that standpoint. But invariably, this is going to come back to running the football. Hassan Hall has transferred from Louisville to be back home. I know you added the kid from Buffalo who's a pretty good player. Is that the basic core of the run game? Dante Smith, I know, is there. I mean, you got guys who've certainly mounted some degree of stats. If they can keep the ball on the ground, it feels like that's going to be their best option until they get some confidence in what Chip Long wants to do throwing it.
Sure. And let's not forget, Wes, when Chip Long was the offensive coordinator of Notre Dame in 2017, that Irish team set a school record for rushing offense. So often we frame a new offensive coordinator in terms of what he can bring to the passing game. But Chip Long's offense is also suited to have a lot of success in the inside zone and keeping the ball on the ground. And I think Dante Smith is ready for his turn in the spotlight. Here's a guy who, even though he wasn't maybe the number one or the number two back to get the ball last year, he averaged nearly 6 yards a carry. And we were so impressed by Dante's ability to run violently and make himself small and burst through holes. I think he's ready for a starring role in that Georgia Tech backfield. Now, unquestionably, it stung when Jahmyr Gibbs left the program, and Jordan Mason was a 2,300-yard rusher for his career as well. But Dante Smith, I think, fits the profile of a lead back that can be very productive for Georgia Tech. And then, like you mentioned, going and getting Hassan Hall, an Atlanta native who was an all-ACC, all-purpose back at Louisville. Getting Dylan McDuffie, who's a 1,000-yard rusher at Buffalo. He's now reunited with his position coach at UB, Mike Daniels, who's the new running backs coach at Georgia Tech. I think with Dante Smith and some of the moves Georgia Tech made to replenish the room through the transfer portal, what was maybe a bit of an unknown or an area that may have given Tech fans some angst at the beginning of the spring, they should feel pretty solid in the talent they have in the backfield now as we enter the season.
Well, here's the question I really want to know. You're doing this interview, it looks like from a bedroom. I'm assuming that's not your bedroom. Would that be accurate?
It is in office sometime during the week, and it's my daughter's bedroom other times during the week, yes.
All right, so we're talking about Clara. Is that correct? Your daughter,
That
Clara?
is correct. And Clara is actually downstairs watching this interview right now. I'm sure she's taking a lot of notes. And I look forward to a very thorough critique of her dad's job on Packer and Durham once we get done.
All right, so here's what I'd like to do. And I don't know how long it takes Clara to go from downstairs back up to her bedroom, but I would like for her, if she's watching, to come upstairs and open up the door and get some national television exposure, because to have to give up the bedroom so Dad can do an interview is kind of a pain in the rear end. So I hope Clara can walk up very quickly, open up the door, wave. If she wants to add something to Georgia Tech Nation, she could do that. But I think this needs to be her debut on network television. I mean, we already got Emmy Awards downstairs. The least we could do is have Clara, who's sacrificing the bedroom for this interview, to make an appearance.
So one of two things could happen right now. Either Clara has already turned off and is watching some cartoons. Actually, three things. That's number one. Number two is she's going to be way too shy and sheepish to maybe do that. Or you see this door over my shoulder, she'll be bursting through it like the Kool-Aid Man. And she'll be crashing this interview. I don't hear footsteps yet. So I don't know how much time we have before commercial break, but she's somewhere down there. And I hope, if nothing else, we have turned her into a Packer and Durham fan, so that'll be on in lieu of whatever she normally watches in the mornings here when she's with me over the summer.
All right, so if she does not appear in the next 10 seconds, here's the deal, Andy. At dinner table tonight, you're like, hey, kid, you blew it. I mean, you got to be ready. You got to be ready for your cue. You got to be ready to roll.
She
I'm going to offer
chance.
this. I'm going to offer this to you, Andy.
Actually.
Uh-oh, wait a minute.
Do you hear footsteps? Wait a second.
Footsteps.
Okay.
Wait a second. Look what we got.
There's Claire. Get out of the way, Andy.
There we go.
Get out of the way. Look. See? There she is. That's it.
I don't know if you heard her say this, but she said, "I'm not sheepish."
I know it. I love it.
There we go.
Claire, congratulations. Star of the show.
Way to go, Claire.
Right there. There it is.
There we go.
Way to go.
Waved all your buddies.
Off of the camera.
Got the that's
there you
it. Love it.
And once again, we saved another one from cartoons. Way to go, Andy. Good job. We'll see you.
Packer and Durham. It's a family program, guys.
That's it. You got it.
Take
Good
care,
job,
man.
Clara.
See you, Claire.
All right,
Have a great day. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
You too.
We'll continue with more.